Hey everybody, welcome back to the shop. I've had this little process going on of making a template for my hunting knives. I want to make the same knife if you watched my last couple of videos. So we got the template made. I fixed the tool rest on the 2x72 so we got a nice flat smooth surface, and I remade my beveling jig, so I've got that all done. Now we're going to actually make one of these hunting knives. My friend Scott's in the process of making one right now, so we're not going to work on his. We're letting him do that, but I'm going to start one. I've got a piece of steel in the vise. I've got my knife traced out using my template, and we're going to cut our excess steel off, and we're going to take it to the grinder, and we're going to start getting this thing shaped up. We're going to try out that new beveling jig. Thanks again for being here, guys. Let's get to it. Alright guys, we've got our knife shaped up here. We've gone ahead and drilled our main pinholes. We've got to drill those two little bad boys there still. And they're so tiny I can't fit my marker down through there to mark them. So we'll have to use the scribe with a little bit of blue dicum on there. As soon as that dries here, we'll get that marked out and we'll get those holes drilled. And then we're going to slap this thing on our beveling jig right here. I know it doesn't look like much. We don't have the bolts in it right now. But it'll sit on the planting just like this. And these two bolt holes here coincide with the holes in the handle. And that'll leave our blade sitting just about like that. So guys, we got a little bit ahead of ourselves. I forgot to put the dicum on this edge and scribe those lines in there. I don't know if you can see those or not. They're not perfect, but that tells us how far we can grind in to our knife, you know, before we get to the... In other words, when I used to do this, I'd have to go like 3 swipes this way and go like 3 swipes this way and keep track of my passes like this, count them evenly so that my bevels would come out in the center. Now that we're going to use this jig, I can just scribe the center of this so that we know where we're going to leave off. And then I could go ahead and just do the one whole side, because it'd really be a pain to be trying to take these bolts off every time, you know, 2 or 3 swipes, and then turn it around and do 2 or 3 on the other side. So anyway, I didn't show that. I forgot to do it, so we just took the knife back off of the jig real quick. I sprayed this edge with the blue dicum, and then you need a really perfectly flat surface. So I run upstairs to my kitchen counter, because I lay this, I have this little scribe I made here out of a nail. You lay your knife down like this, and you just lay this flat on the counter, and you just scribe it, then you turn it over and do the same. And you can see we've left, if you can see that, we've left about a 32nd of an inch in the center for because we don't want to make it completely sharp because the knife still hasn't been heat treated. So and I have to heat treat with my forge so we could burn that edge if we, you know, if we got it too sharp. Alright guys, well so far looks like our beveling jig is working out quite nicely. That's a nice straight bevel. I'm quite happy with the way this is coming out. Now, you may have to change our angle a little bit, you know, to get it. I think we're a little too steep. I need to bring this, take these bolts up a little bit and bring this down just a little, because we don't want that sharp of a bevel. We're getting, I mean, we've still got a way to go, but I don't want to end up with too sharp, too short of a bevel. We'll probably go ahead and leave it right here for a few more passes and see what it does. But then we may have to We may have to move it, you know, down just a little so our bevel will go a little bit higher on our blade. But it's straight. It's a nice straight bevel. You can see that thing is coming out nice and straight, square. That's what we're looking for. And up until now, I've been doing all of my knives freehand, and they look pretty good. I mean, I get them pretty close. But this is going to make these things exact every time. And once we get the perfect angle set, we're going to lock this thing down and leave it there, because this bevel, this beveling jig is just going to be for these hunting knives. So, you know, I'm not going to keep readjusting it and messing with it to put other knives on it and what have you. I just want it for doing this particular knife, so that it never, once these bevels, I may just take a tack welder and tack weld these in place so they can't move once I'm sure where I want it set, so that, you know, every time we grind a set of bevels with this thing, they're exactly in the same spot. So I'm going to go ahead and grind on this for a little bit, and we'll be back here in a little while and we'll show you what we got. Well, okay guys, we went ahead and got these bevels ground. I got to tell you, that's a pretty good looking bevel right there. For some reason, I kind of goofed up on the plunge line on this side. I went a little too far back behind my Spanish notch. I can fix that when I do the final grind, I think. I'll just do the same, you know, to both sides. I'll just hit this side here. We'll come off this shoulder a little bit with our belt and do that. You see this burnt tip here, but that's okay because this knife hasn't been heat treated yet. So we've still got to heat treat this knife and get all our finished work. We want to put a lighter belt on there and smooth this up in here and around the back and that as much as we can. We'll put a lighter belt on and we'll clean these bevels up a little, get some of these belt scratches out of there before we heat treat this. But here we go, man. That's the straightest bevels I've ever done, because I've always done them by hand, and so, you know, doing them freehand, it's hard to get them right. But where I want to make this same knife every time, and I won't be able to do, I'll still be doing bevels freehand when I do a custom knife that I pound out on the anvil or whatever, but all of these I want to be the same. So we're on the right track there. These bevels are looking good. I think they're, by the time we left it like we always do there, about maybe a 32nd of an inch, so we don't burn that edge when we heat treat it. All in all, I'm pleased as punch with that beveling jig and with that tray I put up there, that new plate. It's really heavy, and it's really it's heavy to take out and move when I need to use my wheel or whatever. But when I'm beveling, man, that thing is super flat. You can see these bevels, I mean, they come out just nice and straight and even, and that's what we're looking for. We want to try to get the same results with every knife, and that's the whole point of doing all of this, because like I've told you in the other videos, the only differentiating factor in these knives should be the handle scales. The shape, the grind, everything else should be identical. So even the brass that we're putting on there, I'll probably end up making a template for my brass so that I can get it exactly the same size, same shape every time, same kind of deal. And once we have the brass template made to where we get that right, then the wood has no choice but to fit the rest of the handle. So that's not going to be a problem. So I appreciate y'all being here. Not a whole bunch of new stuff in this video. I mean, you know, we're trying to get this hunting knife and this jig and this tool rest and everything set up to where we can just keep making that same knife over and over, because I want to come up with a knife to sell that's the same knife every time. So that's what this is all about. I'm really happy with the way those bevels came out, and so we'll in the next video we'll get this knife heat treated. We'll anneal it. We'll normalize it a couple of times. We'll anneal it. We'll make sure it's nice and flat and square. Then we'll get it heat treated and tempered, and then it's on to the finished work, and we'll get one of these bad boys made and see what they're going to look like. So thanks for being here, everybody. Always be careful when you're working out in your shop. Protect your eyes and everything, in your hands, and just make sure you be safe. And get out to your shop and do something, build something, make something, tear something up, clean your shop. I gotta clean mine again. It's because my floor is covered in grinder dust and what have you. I gotta get this thing cleaned up again. My bench is pretty nasty with grinder dust and drill spirals and all of that good stuff too. So probably before we do anything else, we'll get the shop cleaned up. So take care of yourselves, everybody. We'll see you on the next one.